dive. Our mission today is a pretty high velocity exploration.
Mm,
We're looking at how to escape that, gravitational pull of just incremental
that's
progress.
slow grind.
Exactly. And achieve what might seem impossible, exponential improvement. We are diving into Price Pritchett's really influential philosophy on generating breakthrough success, a concept he calls U² or U.
And it's a concept that really, it directly challenges a belief that is so deeply ingrained in all of us,
Which is?
that if you want success, you have to take these small, careful, painful steps. I mean, most of us operate under the assumption that progress has to be gradual,
Mm.
that it has to be earned through sheer grinding effort.
Right.
And Pritchett just argues that this very mindset, this faith in incrementalism, is actually the greatest limiter of our potential.
Okay, so we're not looking for a 10% gain.
Not at all.
We're looking for a multiplication of effectiveness. We're here to, I guess, extract the core wisdom behind that transformation, doing more with less.
But it requires accepting a set of rules that honestly sound completely backwards at first.
Let's get into it.
Precisely. I mean, if we look at traditional goal setting, the whole mantra is compound gains or, get 1% better every day.
And that works for a while.
It does, and it's absolutely necessary for, foundational skill building.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where those small steps, they become psychologically constricting.
So what is U then? It's not just U plus 10%.
No, it's an explosive jump. Think of it as an instantaneous shift to a higher orbit of achievement. You just skip the intermediate levels entirely.
That sounds, I have to say, a bit magical, almost a spiritual concept, but he tries to ground the metaphor in actual science, right?
It does, yeah, in quantum physics.
Right.
In quantum mechanics, a quantum leap is when a particle moves from one energy state to another without crossing the space in between.
So it just appears somewhere else?
It just appears. It's an effortless, explosive transition. So metaphorically, he's suggesting we can bypass the conventional, tedious processes that usually lead to success. The leap should feel simple, efficient, and almost immediate.
Even though the idea of skipping the struggle feels...
Completely paradoxical.
Yeah, especially to high achievers.
To everyone, really.
But let's wrestle with that tension right away. For the listener who is disciplined, who understands the value of perseverance, this idea of effortless leaps has to sound suspicious.
Of course.
So when is foundational effort required, and when does it become the trap?
That is the most critical question here. And we have to acknowledge that foundational effort is necessary for skill mastery. You can't just leapfrog from, zero knowledge to expertise.
Sure.
But Pritchett is targeting stagnation. If you've been working hard consistently for months or even years, and your results have totally plateaued,
You're stuck.
you're stuck. The problem isn't a lack of effort. The problem is the paradigm of your effort. Your habits have become a rut. Pritchett is providing this unconventional catalyst for a sudden psychological break from that rut. The leap is a radical departure from old habits, not a complete abandonment of, all virtue.
So the incremental approach becomes the enemy when it stops delivering real growth.
And just becomes a comforting form of busy work.
Right. You feel like you're doing the work, but you've actually capped your own potential just by a failure to imagine anything beyond your current path.
Exactly. The quantum leap asks you to change the rules of the game entirely.
And the first rule we have to tackle is, it's a psychological bombshell for anyone listening who identifies as an overachiever. Rule number 1, quit trying harder.
Yeah.
How do we distinguish this from just being lazy? If I stop trying harder, what stops me from just sitting on the couch?
It's a fantastic distinction to make. And quit trying harder is not quit trying.
Okay.
It means stop applying more of the same ineffective strategy. If your current method gives you a certain result, doubling down on that same method will only accelerate burnout. You just get diminishing returns.
So the breakthrough requires a change in direction, not an increase in brute force.
Precisely. A change in direction.
This is where that classic analogy comes in, isn't it? The fly in the window.
Right. Imagine a fly trapped in a room. It's just relentlessly slamming itself against the sealed window pane, trying to get to the sunlight outside.
I can picture it.
The fly shows incredible persistence, right? Incredible effort. But it gains nothing, just exhaustion. A few feet away, there's an open door.
A different direction.
A slight change in direction. A quantum leap that would lead to freedom instantly. The fly's persistence is admirable, but its strategy is it's flawed. The U philosophy demands efficiency, not just high activity. We always mistake effort for efficacy.
So that frames incremental effort as misdirected persistence. Which means if we stop doing more of the same, we naturally pivot to rule 2.
Which is ignore conventional approaches.
Because that's what got you stuck in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. When people hit a performance wall, the natural human tendency is to retreat to what's familiar.
To best practices.
Best practices, what we know works. Pritchett calls this faith in the familiar, and he says it's a trap. Quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior because the solution isn't on the path you're already on.
So if I'm stuck trying to solve a problem with, say, logic and linear planning,
The quantum leap solution might be to introduce something completely emotional or intuitive or maybe even random.
okay, an example.
If you're trying to climb a wall, the conventional approach is, I need a bigger ladder.
Sure.
The unconventional approach is to look around and realize there's a simple door 40 feet to your left. Or maybe that the wall is actually a screen door you can just push through.
So you're seeking the elegant solution.
The elegant solution. The simple, efficient change that requires minimal emotional and physical energy. It often feels totally illogical at the time, but in hindsight,
It's the obvious choice.
it's completely obvious.
And once we start looking for those elegant solutions, we hit rule 3. Focus on ends rather than means. This is all about prioritizing the destination over the travel itinerary, isn't it?
It is, and it's a really powerful psychological tool. You have to create this crystal clear, intensely vivid mental image of the desired outcome
What life looks like after the leap.
after the leap. The destination is everything, and the reason is worrying about the detailed methodology, the how, is often just a fear-driven exercise in controlling the unknown.
And that anxiety, it just bobs us down.
It completely does. By focusing intensely on that end state, you allow your subconscious mind to activate resources and recognize opportunities you would never see otherwise. You are trusting that the path will emerge,
Because you've given your brain a non-negotiable target.
a non-negotiable target. And this requires a willingness to tolerate ambiguity, some confusion, even chaos for a while. The game plan gets shaped as you go,
So think about the trophy in your hand.
not about every single pothole on the road to the stadium.
Okay, it sounds thrilling, but stepping off the known path, ignoring conventional wisdom, refusing to plan every detail, that has to introduce massive risk and anxiety. How do we manage that psychological fallout?
You manage it by realizing that risk is, well, it's unavoidable.
Right.
Pritchett encourages you to choose a different set of risks. Most people see taking the leap as inherently risky, which, okay, it is. But they ignore the hidden, quiet risk of the status quo, the failure to achieve your true desires, the risk of stagnation, the slow, grinding death of ambition. Playing it safe is often the ultimate losing strategy.
So the fundamental barrier isn't the difficulty of the task itself, but our own self-imposed limitations, our fear of change.
Absolutely. Once you accept that risk is inevitable, you gain control over which risks you take. Do you risk looking foolish by attempting a huge goal, or do you risk dying with regret because you played it small?
And that reframing leads directly into what feels like the hardest part. The necessity of seeking failure. We are so conditioned to avoid failure at all costs.
We are.
Yet Pritchett says it's a necessary resource.
It is a resource, and it's a sign of progression. If you are not encountering problems or pain, you are aiming way too low. Quantum leaps demand a willingness to make big mistakes quickly. The difficulties you face are actually positive indicators.
So how should you think about it?
Think of it like this. If you start a massive new project, there's always a period, the middle section, where everything looks like a complete mess.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It's disorganized, maybe even doomed. We love the quote, everything looks like a failure in the middle.
That's powerful. That validates the chaos, really. It normalizes that initial struggle when you're trying an unconventional plan.
It does. I mean, if you're not getting jerked out of your comfort zone, you aren't challenging your limits enough for real growth. Which brings us to another rule. Get uncomfortable.
The anxiety is a good sign.
The anxiety and fear that come with a quantum leap are not signals to retreat. They're signals that you are doing it right. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's proceeding in spite of those feelings. Use that fear as a barometer for how big the growth opportunity really is.
That requires a massive mental shift, though. Something we talked about earlier. You have to suspend disbelief.
You too.
Because if I'm encountering failure and I'm uncomfortable, my rational mind is just screaming, "This is impossible, turn back." How do you silence that noise?
You realize that your doubt is generally based on habitual thinking. It's mental junk from old experiences and past limitations. You have to act as if success is certain, even if skepticism is rampant.
It's an act of conviction.
It is. Instead of listening to the voice that doubts the possibility of the achievement, you are encouraged to actively doubt the credibility of your own limits. You have to challenge the narrative that you are incapable.
Which requires immediate total commitment before all the evidence is in.
Yes. You are essentially generating the evidence through the force of your belief in your action.
You're giving yourself permission to succeed on a massive scale.
And overriding that internal editor who is just trying to keep you safe by keeping you small.
So, once we've mentally committed to this leap, where do we actually get the power to execute? Pritchett suggests we all have these unopened gifts.
Yes, untapped talent and ability just waiting to be claimed.
Tell me more about that.
That's the key distinction he makes. High achievers aren't necessarily, genetically superior. They are simply people who have utilized a greater percentage of their potential.
Okay.
The act of making a quantum leap is inherently an act of self-discovery. It's like a caterpillar breaking out of its chrysalis. It discovers its latent ability to fly as a butterfly.
So to become you, you have to engage the belief that the abilities you need are already inside you.
They're just dormant.
But I imagine latent talent needs fuel, right? Which leads to Rule 16, fall in love.
Yes. Quantum leaps are fueled by emotional intensity, what he calls a magnificent obsession. Passion provides the energy you need to overcome the chilling effects of doubt and criticism and that failure we just discussed.
So if the goal isn't something you deeply, truly desire,
If it doesn't fire up your soul, you won't generate the internal heat to sustain action when the entire external world is screaming, stop.
and that deep desire has to translate into immediate momentum. Which brings us to another great paradox. Make your move before you're ready.
This one is so crucial for avoiding the perfectionist trap.
I can see that. Waiting for the perfect plan.
The perfect moment, waiting until you feel ready. It's all just a sophisticated stalling tactic. It's driven by anxiety.
So what's the alternative?
Pritchett argues that you are already prepared enough to take the leap. Action, even imperfect action taken right now, generates the momentum. It reveals the necessary capabilities and knowledge through the process of discovery.
So the preparation isn't the planning phase. The preparation is the initial action.
Absolutely. You refine the strategy on the fly, you learn by doing, and often the most important skills you need are only revealed once you're already committed to that chaotic middle.
And finally, the overarching theme that kind of ties this all together.
Look inside for the opportunity.
After all this talk of radical leaps and unconventional paths, the source of power has to be internal.
It has to be. The timing, the power, the opportunity, they aren't dictated by the market or external circumstances. They flow from your inner voice, from your passions and your dreams.
So if you engage in these things with genuine passion,
And a carefree spirit, avoiding that frantic, stressed feeling of trying too hard, that is when the magic happens. The path to you is guided by your heart, not by excessive strain. Hashtag Nadishtang outro.
So this deep dive into Pritchett's guide is, it's a profound challenge to conventional wisdom. The transformation to you requires choosing paradoxical action, quitting the effort that doesn't work, embracing risk, actively seeking failure, and moving forward with passion, all before you are logically prepared.
It's about trading the perceived safety of the slow lane for the explosive potential of the leap.
It really is.
And he fundamentally challenges us to recognize that we are capable of these immediate exponential shifts, but only if we radically change the mental rules we operate under.
So if we stop trying to control the process
And instead focus entirely on the destination, we unleash an inner capability that was previously just limited by fear and convention.
So a final thought for you to take away. If conventional wisdom tells us to plan every single step meticulously, and Pritchett tells us to focus only on the destination and leap before we're ready, how does that change the way you define responsible decision-making this week?
And which self-imposed limit are you going to actively doubt in the next 24 hours?
Thank you for sharing your sources with us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.